Hey there everyone, how's it hanging? I hope you're well, me here, obviously, and today we are going to be talking about a scale, the C major scale to be more specific. Now, scales are a huge part of guitar playing, and it's an area that I find that people are often a bit confused about or a bit hesitant about and worried that they won't understand them. We're going to go right from the very beginning today. Okay, now I've also put the tab here for you as well. This is primarily aimed at guitar players, but whatever instrument you play, this will all still be relevant apart from the tab. So in terms of the tab, first thing to say, this is not the only way you can play this. You can use other positions, but this is the simplest one, I think, to begin with. We will move to other positions and fingerings as we go through the lessons, but this is where we're going to start today. So in terms of a scale, what is a scale to begin with? Okay, so depending on where you look, obviously there's lots of sources these days. There's the internet, there's books, there's Wikipedia, there's a dictionary and a thesaurus. Depending on where you look, you might find a very slightly worded, differently worded definition. One that I generally seem to find is pretty accepted. A scale is any set of musical notes ordered by fundamental frequency or pitch. Now, it will go either from low to high, or high to low, or in this case here, we're starting from the lowest note, which is C, middle C, and we're then going up to the C an octave higher. So this is ascending, and this is the C here. We'll put the names of the notes in just a moment, and then we go up to the C here at the top, the highest note, then we come back down again to the C. So this is called ascending, meaning going up, and then descending, coming down. Okay, and so we've got the treble clef at the beginning here, and we've also got the C, which is common time 4/4, 4 crotchets per bar, 4 quarter notes per bar. Okay, so I've done this in 4/4. There's 4 notes there, 4 notes there, 4 notes there, and you'll notice there's only 3 here, but we've actually got the value of 1, another value of 1, making 2 altogether, and then I've made this a minim or half note at the end, just so the bar is mathematically correct, so it all adds up. Now, while I put these names in here, something else that is very important to know, and again, I think with scales, this is an easy one to tell yourself, well, scales kill creativity. This is something that I quite often find people saying, and I understand what people are trying to say, I think, but at the same time, out of all the people who've said it to me over the years, there's a very small percentage of people, and this might sound harsh, that aren't just being a bit lazy with it. Because the thing is, you can learn a scale, but don't use it all the time. You don't have to use a scale for everything. A lot of people will say, well, I like very experimental music, and they frequently switch between scales, or they use scales with lots of extra added notes. Well, that's fantastic. Learn what they are then. If you've ever played a note or a couple of notes, you've played something from a scale. If you'd ever played a song before or a piece of music, you've played within a key which has a scale. So there's not really any getting around it. I think a lot of the time, it's not always an elitist thing. Occasionally I find people are maybe a little bit that way, but I think this business about killing creativity, I do understand it to a degree, and one that I quite often get is, well, the Beatles didn't know scales. There's a lot to unpack there, and saying that anybody doesn't know something, well, you don't know what someone knows. There's a big culture, I find, especially on places like YouTube, where well-known guitar players will say, I don't know any scales, no arpeggios, no theory, and then 3 months later they're doing a lesson for Jam Track Central or Lick Library or something, saying, oh, this is a sweep pick diminished arpeggio in the key of F sharp, and you think, well, hang on a minute. It's a bit like only knowing how to order a watermelon sandwich in Spanish but not knowing how to say hello. You wouldn't learn that first. That wouldn't be the only thing you knew. It would be a very odd context. So that's my thought on it anyway. It's very much not a case of you're a lesser guitar player or lesser musician if you don't learn this stuff. There's no side of it to that at all, in my opinion, but I just think, as Joe Satriani said, knowledge is power, and my thought on it is, just because you know the theory behind something, it doesn't mean that you have to let it spoil it. You know, sometimes I'll play and not think too much about what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll think within scales. Sometimes I'll hear something and think, wow, I'm not even really sure what's going on there. But when you know the rules, you can break them. And if you learn how to analyze things, it makes it a lot simpler. So I think a lot of it does come from a bit of a fear of that initial understanding. And I don't think, people who go on YouTube or wherever who say they know absolutely nothing, I don't think it really helps people in terms of educating themselves in terms of theory, because I just find almost every time, as soon as we get into a little bit of theory, people realise it's simpler than they thought it would be. Of course, it's not simple if you go out and buy a book, the thickness of the Oxford Dictionary, all on modes. That's not a good place to start, I don't think. Start with the real basics. That's what I'm trying to do with this series. So in terms of a scale, the C major scale, the only things to know here, the fact that it's C. C is what we call the root note. So everything grows up from the C. Think of a plant, think of a flower, think of a tree. And major, the only definition I'll give you of major to begin with is happy sounding. There's a lot more in terms of the construction and the spacings and intervals between the notes, but to begin with, just remember those two parts of the scale. The letter name, which is everything is built from that note, starts and finishes on that note, and the major aspect, which means happy sounding. Okay, that's all there is to begin with. So this is standard tuning, and like I say, I've put the tab underneath this for you to begin with. I know this is music theory, and it will be primarily notation focused, but I don't see the point in taking away your training wheels straight away. We've all had that French or German teacher who wouldn't speak English, and I get it. We need to hear the language that we're learning lots, but at the same time, well, we kind of need to know what it means as well. I think it's a balance about learning and understanding. You can't expect to know stuff that you've not been told. It's just not possible. So start with this to begin with. These are your letter names, and it's fine to write them in as much as you want to. It really is. I've done shows in the past in the theatre and played bass guitar. Bass guitar's not a strength of mine. I've written in no end of notes. Always in pencil, never in pen. Don't let me catch you writing in pen in a score, ever, for any reason, unless you have a good reason. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. This is your C major scale in 1 octave. We've used quarter notes or crotchets, whichever you prefer to call them, apart from the very last note value, which is a minim or half note. We've got the treble clef here, common time, which is 4/4, the time signature, the 5 lines here, the stave or staff, whichever you call it, and then we've also got the 6 lines here for tab. That is presuming you're playing a regular 6-string guitar. If you're not, well, maybe you should take the other strings off. Who am I to judge? I'm me, that's who I am. And here is what it sounds like. So, thanks for watching and listening, everybody. As always, please do like and subscribe and share the video if you've enjoyed it. And as always, don't practice too much. You'll only get better. Cheers then. Bye-bye.
What do you mean more dynamics? It won't go any louder.